Welcome back. Today, now that you've had an opportunity to work on establishing your posture and work with just sitting, I'm going to speak briefly about that. You've probably come to notice as you've sat there the ways in which your mind runs around and thinks about things you have left to do today, assignments that are due, things that happened last week, people you want to see. The mind, when we're not actively doing something like engaging in a homework assignment or playing a sport, tends to really try and fill in the empty space. And so one of the reasons that we work to establish a mindfulness practice is to become more familiar with the workings of our mind, and to not have it kind of be a term that's used a lot in many traditions is kind of to be such a wild horse, to come to understand the ways in which it works and to actually have some agency, some, I wouldn't say control, but by having understanding about the ways in which our mind works, that wild horse tendency of the mind, we can in some ways rein that in. So the ways in which we do that is to have what's known as a point of mindfulness or a point of awareness. And so now that you've established your sitting practice or your foundation, the 7 points of posture that I worked through with you last time, of course always go through those again at the beginning and make that kind of the way that you begin your practice, is to progressively work through all 7, the seat, foundation, torso, shoulders, neck, head, and relaxing the face last of all. But now we're going to actually, I'm going to add having a point of awareness. And this is when we're going to move beyond just sitting. And what a point of awareness is the point in which you put your attention. And at this stage, we're going to attempt to put all of our attention on our point of awareness, which is going to be the most simple and basic, but also perhaps the most powerful and profound of the many ways in which you can focus your attention, and that is on the breath itself. One of the reasons that mindfulness practitioners will focus on the breath is that we always have the breath with us. On good days and bad days, when we're at home or on vacation, the breath as a point of awareness is available to us all of the time. And so this is why it has become, and it is kind of the foundational point of awareness for most mindfulness practices. And we're going to be very specific about how we put our attention on the breath. And how we're going to do that is we're going to be breathing through our nose. And so we want to put our point of attention right on the underside of the tip of the nose. Right where, as we breathe in, the air comes in, and right where, as we breathe out, the air comes out. So by putting our attention right on this spot, we're going to be focusing our attention on the sensation and our experience of breathing in and breathing out. And we're going to do that in repetition, just continuing to maintain our attention and our awareness on this very, very small, maybe half a centimeter of flesh right at the tip of our nose, and the sensation of the air moving in and over and moving out and past. So take a few minutes with me here and actually just attempt to put the entirety of your awareness and your attention on the sensation and experience of the breath moving in and the breath moving out at the tip of your nose. One last thing before we start as well is, while you be breathing through your nose, if it's comfortable for you, keep your lips slightly parted. You don't have to shut your mouth. just a slight crack in the lips is ideal. So let's do a few breaths and practice that right now. Good. Now, having that experience of trying that, I'm sure that many of you, if not all of you, experienced that even that short session of maybe 8 to 10 breaths, trying to keep the entirety of your awareness on the sensation at your nose, there's a good chance that your attention may have wandered, that once again you may have found yourself thinking about the things you have left to do today or something that's happened in your past. And what we tend to do if we have a point of attention in anything that we do and we wander off is to mentally label what we've done. So you're sitting and your mind wanders off to a dinner that you have tonight. Or maybe you think about something, someone who's upset you recently. And what we tend to do is to label these thoughts that will come in and take our attention away from our point of attention, which is the breath. And so if we think about, tomorrow I need to go volunteer with the local food drive. What we'll do is, when we notice that we're thinking, we might think of that and we think that we're thinking, but we might label that as a good thought. Whereas if we think about someone from our past who's upset us, when we finally notice that we're thinking, we might label that as a bad thought. The way in which, at the basic level, we want to address thoughts that come in and take us away from our point of attention is to simply, in our mind, say to ourselves, thinking. And when you say thinking in your head, we're going to be beginning to establish a practice, a new habitual pattern, that when we say thinking in our head, that reminds us that our mind has drifted off, and we gently bring our attention back to our point of awareness, which is breathing at the tip of our nose. But the thing that we don't want to do, because some people are very critical when they aren't able to do something like keep their attention where they want to, again, we'll label the thought. Instead of just saying thinking, there will be an additional thought that comes in. Ooh, that was a good thought. I'm going to go help someone. Or, ooh, that was a bad thought. I have bad feelings about that person. And you really want to actively not label your thoughts. There is no such thing for the intention of our practice as a good thought or a bad thought. It is ultimately all just thinking, and so we want to treat it as such. If a thought emerges and you move away, when you notice that your mind has wandered, say thinking, not out loud, just in your head, and have that remind you to return your attention to the sensation of the air coming into and out of your nose, right at the tip of your nose. So practice this, and in the coming weeks, what I want you to do for the next 2 days, one way in which we kind of keep a sense of time in the work that we're doing is to count our breaths. And so for the next 2 days, I literally want you to count your breaths out loud, very quietly, and breathe in, and on the out breath, 1. Breathe in, 2. And do this quietly by yourself for the next 2 or 3 days, and try that practice. Then after those 2 or 3 days, I want you to move on and continue to count your breaths, 1, 2, 3, inside your head, not out loud. Count to 10. And when you get to 10, start over at 1. Some people have a tendency to try and keep track of how many times they've counted to 10, but don't do that because that's just another thinking process. If you find yourself doing that, just again, notice that you're thinking and let go. And so for for the next week or two. Try these two practices.